Hi everyone, I'm Amy and welcome to my channel. I'm a manifestation and relationship mentor, and this channel is all about merging spirituality and psychology so that you can manifest the relationship you desire. And in today's video, I'm going to talk about how self-love is so important when it comes to manifesting, and how you can incorporate this in my personal method, and how you can deeply and truly love who you are and have this reflected out in the outside world. So stick around to the end of the video. I will give you all of my hints and tips. Also, just to let you know that I have got a self-study course that's going to be released in the next couple of weeks. If you want to know when that's released, go to my website, it's in the description, and subscribe to my website and I will let you all know as soon as that's released. Also, if you like this content, please consider subscribing to this channel and leaving this video a like so other people have access to it. But without further ado, let's dive in. Now, this time of year, with Valentine's Day is just around the corner, it can be difficult if you're sat there wanting your SP, or maybe you have your SP and things aren't exactly how you would like it to be. Maybe you've been single for quite some time and Valentine's Day is just smacking you in the face, reminding you of how you haven't got what you want. And no judgment, I've been there. I know how painful it is wanting something that everyone around you seems to have. But the reason why I want to make this video is because the most important relationship is the relationship to yourself. Now, I understand how unsatisfying that sounds, and I was the same. I was like, well, I don't really want to do this self-love stuff. I just want my stuff. I just want my person. I don't want to change. Why should I have to change? But as those who are familiar with my story will know, that I tried for years to get with my person. I tried for years to get him to move in with me. And I can tell you, I'm living proof that this self-love work and self-acceptance and work on your self-concept will manifest your person. It will manifest you a relationship. So let's start with what self-love actually is, because there's a lot of conflicting information out there. But what I'm going to do is give you my take on it. And, my take on it is what's worked for me. Now, if we sort of change slightly what self-love is and change it to self-acceptance, and what this basically means, that all of these parts of you that you push away, that you ignore, that you deny are even there, that you're ashamed of, or that you're embarrassed about, maybe something in your past happened that really humiliated you, and you've pushed that away and thought, right, okay, I cannot let this part of me come out again because I'm going to feel humiliated, I'm going to get judged, people are going to reject me. And these parts of yourself that you've pushed away, they fragment, but they don't go anywhere. So they're still within your psyche. And what the aim of self-love or self-acceptance is to accept all of these parts of ourselves in order to fulfill ourselves, in order to make ourselves whole again. So we're not separating these parts of ourselves anymore. We're not pushing these parts back into the shadow, because we know that whatever we push back into the shadow does not go anywhere. It will manifest in some way. So by accepting those parts of us and integrating those parts of us, which I will go through later in the video on exactly how to do that, what we're doing is we're not resisting it anymore. We're not resisting it, and what we resist persists. So therefore, when we stop resisting these things, we can stop them manifesting. So self-acceptance is really a practice of asking yourself, okay, what part of me am I not accepting? And I'm going to give you a little exercise now. So if I use the example of perfectionism, because my upbringing was very much centered around subconscious messages around success, that I had to be successful. I had to be successful with ease. That anything that was below the high standard that was set for me, if I didn't achieve that standard, I was seen as a failure. And this followed me later on in life, where I wouldn't apply for promotions. I wouldn't go for jobs that I really wanted to, because I didn't really feel like I was capable of it, and that I was worried that I wouldn't be perfect at it. So if I take that for an example, but I want you to really think about something about yourself that you are ashamed of, or that you don't really like, that you ignore or pretend isn't there. So think about something that's a characteristic maybe, or an imperfection, or what you perceive as an imperfection. So let's go through this exercise together. So what I did when I identified this perfectionist part of me, I went back and thought about where this actually comes from. I strive for perfection, knowing that perfection doesn't really exist. And all I was really doing was setting myself up for failure. And, I had memories come up from childhood, subconscious messages coming up. So, for example, my parents would say, well, if you haven't got a degree, you're not clever enough to do anything. So I really did suffer going through a degree that I didn't want to do just so that my parents would approve of me. And this really, really manifested later on in life, where I saw just how imperfect I was. And these would be reflected back at me so frequently. It was reflected back in my job. I would keep making mistakes and being picked up on it. It happened in my marriage where my husband left me. It happened in other relationships too. And I almost felt like an imposter while I was at work. I felt like an imposter in my marriage, thinking, I don't belong here, and someone's going to find out just how imperfect I am, and then I'll feel humiliated. Then everyone will see that I'm a failure. So what I really had to do was, first of all, accept that this part was there and own it. Okay, there's a part of me that really does believe that if I'm not perfect, that I'm not going to succeed in life. And applying this to manifesting, it came in with that as well. If I didn't do techniques perfectly, if I didn't stay in the state perfectly, if I didn't affirm things perfectly, if I'd missed a negative thought and not changed it, I hadn't done it perfectly. And I was really scared that because I wasn't doing it perfectly, that what I wanted wouldn't happen. You might be resistant to a feeling that you've got. So say, for example, you're feeling resentful or anger at somebody. You might push that down and suppress it, because maybe you were told when you were younger that anger was never acceptable. Maybe you were told to go to your room until you'd calm down. And when you were in that state, you weren't listened to. So you've suppressed that part of you. And that is a part that we need to look at and accept so that we can integrate it. Because I can tell you that these parts are not inherently good or bad. There will be both. So say, for example, with perfectionism, there are good things to being a perfectionist. I do have a good attention to detail, for example. I do strive to do my best. But what I really had to do was drop these standards. I had to drop the standards that were set for me in childhood and come up with my own standards of what I thought was okay. And this didn't mean not having any standards. I do hold myself to standards that I set, that I think are acceptable, that I think are achievable, so that I can actually achieve things and feel like I've achieved them and feel successful, feel like I've accomplished something, because that was a really foreign thing to me. Because I never ever reached the standards that were set for me. So I was constantly wandering around feeling unworthy, feeling like a failure, because I hadn't met these standards that weren't even set by me in the first place. So step number one is accept that that part is there. Look at where it comes from. Get a journal it out. What thoughts come up with it? What memories come up with it? How do you act from this still now? How is this part of you affecting your life now? And what we really want to work to do is accept it. Accept, okay, this is, even though I don't like this thing right now, it has still made me who I am today. And this is how you're going to start your self-love journey, because to me, self-love is accepting all of you, not just the good parts, accepting every bit of you, every fragment of you, so that you can shed light on it, so it doesn't have to be in this shadow anymore. It doesn't want to be in the shadow anymore. This is why it keeps manifesting, so that you'll look at it, so that you can accept it, so that you can integrate it. And every time you do this with every aspect of yourself, you're becoming more and more whole, more and more fulfilled. And you can start seeing yourself with some compassion as well. So instead of beating myself up for not meeting a standard or not being perfect at something, I saw myself with compassion and, thinking, well, it's okay that I make mistakes. It's okay that I'm not perfect 100% of the time, and what I'm doing is good enough, because in terms of manifestation, you have not got to be perfect. You have not got to be in the state 100% of the time. You haven't. What your job is to integrate these parts of you that are coming up that are against what you want, because perfectionism would hold me back. It would stop me going for what I wanted, because I assumed that I would automatically fail at it, because I wouldn't be able to achieve the standards that were set for me. So when I got into a relationship with my SP again, that feeling of failure, that fear of not being good enough was still there, because the standards that I'd set in marriage the last time, I didn't meet them. And I really did believe that I'd failed at marriage. So why would I go after that again? Why would I put myself in that position again, thinking that I was going to fail anyway and thinking that I'll never be good enough? But what I did was I actually dropped my own standards when it came to relationships and marriage, knowing that I didn't have to be perfect, knowing that I was already good enough because I was who I was. I'm already good enough. I'm already worthy of this. And that made the relationship so much easier. So when you've identified a part of you that you have been suppressing, and you've identified where this comes from, work on accepting it and work on forgiving yourself for thinking these things, because you did not put your hand up and ask for these limiting beliefs. You did not put your hand up and ask, can I please be a perfectionist? You didn't. So show yourself some compassion, show yourself some forgiveness for thinking these things that aren't true and were never true. They were just subconscious programming that you've picked up in childhood, that you've taken on, and you've just acted from it. And really look at how these beliefs are affecting your life now, so that you can work on letting them go. Is this something that you want to continue? And perfectionism still comes out in me, and that's okay, as long as there's a balance. And so it's not about suppressing that part all over again, but it's about looking at how this part might benefit you, but what about this part isn't benefiting you, so that you can let go of those things. And the same with anger. Anger isn't inherently bad. There are parts of anger that serve you. Anger really makes you clear on what you don't want. Anger helps you communicate what your boundaries are. Anger helps you identify where it is that you're not happy. So instead of suppressing anger, let it come up. And again, we don't want to take our anger out on anybody, but there are good parts to anger that we want to keep. So we don't want to suppress that again. And every time you do this with a certain part of yourself, and when you can start really loving and accepting these parts of you, this is what is going to be reflected out. So when you stop shaming yourself for things, when you stop hiding things, when you can actually communicate vulnerably about these things and accept them, SP is going to accept them as well. Other people are going to accept them as well, because fundamentally there is nothing wrong. There is nothing wrong with you. There's no part of you that is that bad that you can't look at and that you can't accept. Yes, okay, I did that. Yes, okay, this is part of me. And I'm going to accept it, because I know that if I don't accept it and if I resist it, it's just going to manifest in a different way. And also remind yourself that these things are normal. Fears are normal. Everybody has fears. Everybody has a fear of some kind. So when a fear comes up relating to your manifestation, accept that it's there. Say, okay, yeah, I am afraid that this isn't going to happen for me, but I'm still going to go for it anyway. So we're not resisting these parts of ourselves anymore, and we're bringing them in instead of pushing them away. And when you do that, you will find that you have so much love for yourself and so much compassion for yourself that you will automatically start treating yourself differently. So when the message is to change your self-concept, all you're really doing is becoming more of yourself. You're not changing anything about yourself, because you don't need to change. There is nothing wrong with you to change. You don't need to get rid of these things. Instead, accept them, take what's good and keep that, and release what isn't. And with the parts that you don't want, forgive yourself for thinking them, forgive yourself for having them, and just let them go. So when this part manifests in you again, instead of thinking, oh my God, I need to hide from this, I need to get away from this, you can think, oh yeah, that's my fear of failure. That's okay. And you won't have that reaction anymore. You won't have this need to manipulate, to sort it out, to conquer it, to manifest over it, to affirm over it anymore. You just think, oh yeah, I can see how that's me, and move on with your life, move on with your day, without thinking that you've got to solve it. And the reason why this is the thing that's going to manifest your relationship, because when you can love yourself unconditionally, that is what's going to reflect you out. Unconditional love is going to be shown to you. and you will automatically know that you're worthy and know that you're deserving, because you've released the parts of you that do not say that you are. You've released those beliefs that come up with the shadow side of you that say that you're not worthy and not deserving. You will automatically have this respect for yourself that you've never felt before. And of course, that's going to be reflected back to you in your relationships. And, I know that there's a lot of advice out there to meditate and affirm, which is fine. But I certainly didn't want to be affirming for years, which is what would have happened if I hadn't actually looked at the reasons why I needed to affirm over things in the first place. This is the quick way. So I really hope you enjoyed this video. I hope that it's giving you some sort of direction with what self-love actually is. If you need any further help with it, put it in the comments below and I will do my best to answer them, but I will see you in the next video.